Welcome to the program. Now we'll begin with Nigeria's Vice President Tinubu-Shettima and the conversation around his recent public remarks, considered by many as a veiled criticism of President Bola Tinubu's administration. The event was the public presentation of the book OPL 245, the inside story of the $1.3 billion oil block, authored by former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Bello Adoke. Now, what began as a tribute to the courage and integrity of Adoke soon took a dramatic twist. Shettima's reflection about his bitter experience as governor of Borno State, narrating how he was marked as Nigeria's public enemy #1 in the height of Boko Haram attacks in 2014, and how he survived a plot by former President Goodluck Jonathan to remove him from office, failed following a bold legal advice from Adoke. Then House Speaker Aminu Tambuwal and others who told Jonathan he lacked the powers to remove an elected councillor, let alone a governor. Now, Shettima's account has now provoked strong debate in a political culture where personal ambition can hardly cohabit with loyalty, especially within the Nigerian political scene. Was the vice president criticizing the action of his own principal, President Tinubu, over his action in Rivers State and removal or suspension of Governor Sim Fubara from office? Well, the VP has now clarified that his speech was taken out of context. A presidency statement describes the media interpretations as, quote, gross misrepresentation and reckless endangerment of national cohesion. But could this clarification have been an afterthought? Well, joining us now in the studio to help us analyze Shettima's remarks is a former senior special assistant on media to ex-vice president Namadi Sambo, Omar Sani. He's a veteran in the presidency and understands how the tension can be high in that office. So good to have you.
It's my pleasure, Sam.
Yes.
So now, how are you?
Fine, thank you. And Omar Sani, you were at that event, and then I want to start with what former Vice President Oshibanjo himself has said, that when you are in the office of the Vice President as the occupant of that seat, anything you do or say could be misinterpreted and your loyalty will be tested against your principal. And he was quoting former Kano State Governor and former APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje. How do you marry all of this together?
Yes, I agree with him, because the most controversial office is the office of the Vice President. Now, the President and the Vice President may have very good, cordial working relationship, just as like my boss had with Goodluck Jonathan. But again, there is a Hausa adage that says, "Ba amugun sarki, se mugun bafade." Now, those courtiers closer to the President and will be instigating him.
All right, so that's the meaning actually, because I mean,
yes,
for some of our viewers,
it means people closer to him will be instigating him. Look, this man is is bringing marabouts. They are praying that you should die, and he will take over. All those type of things. Don't shake his hand. Don't eat where he is supposed to eat. Don't do this and don't do. These are things that are recurring, and they can never stop. This is the problem between the office of the President and the Vice. And whenever the Vice President perhaps is acting as a president, if he does something good that the nation applauds, then he will never be allowed to act again.
Well, we have the classical example, Yemi Oshibanjo, in 2017. After that period, I mean, he was never given that powers again.
Because he's trying to outshine his master. And, you know, the 48 laws of power is very clear. You never outshine your master. So these are some of the critical issues that normally happens in the office of the Vice President when compared to the office of the President. In spite of the fact that the President and his Vice are in very good cordial working relationship.
But could Shettima be making that statement and genuinely think that Nigerians will not link that to what happened in Rivers State? Or could it be political naivety, or he's just trying to play to the gallery?
No, I think he was quoted out of context. I was there. And he was trying to narrate how he came about knowing Adoke. And so while he was giving the narration,
Yeah.
he was saying that their path crossed when he was declared enemy number one and he was supposed to be removed by President Goodluck Jonathan. And Adoke, being the Attorney General and Minister of Justice then, insisted that no, Mr. President, you do not have the power to remove a sitting governor. You can only declare a state of emergency, and which means it is subjected to martial laws there, but not to remove the governor. You see, that was a saving grace for him. And as a saving grace, he felt Adoke did something good for him. And so they became friends. And similarly, in the same context, that's what he meant by calling the name of Tambuwal, because the House of Representatives also refused to agree that he should be removed. So these are the context in which he made the statement. But because we are now in a situation where such type of things happen, and the Vice President, don't forget, is a member of the Security Council. And being a member of the Security Council, and he has tested that law previously, and he was a beneficiary of that law. The general thinking within the Nigerian populace is that he should have advised that, look, being a victim of this law, this is how it should operate. So whether he advised or not, whether his advice was taken or not, is also another issue for deliberation someday. But let me add this thing. You know, stories in the Nigerian media space must be sensational, and it must carry some form of controversy for it to fly. In our parlance, it is said that when a dog bites a man, it is not a story. But when a man bites a dog, it becomes a story. And now we are in a situation where people have shouted, loudly that the removal of the governor of Rivers State.
Suspension.
The suspension. Well, so whether suspension or removal, this is merely semantic.
Yeah.
When somebody is not performing the functions of his office, he has been removed. The
presidency is not seeing it that way.
The argument can be whether it is permanent removal or temporary removal.
Well, and that's where suspension comes in.
But then in the Constitution, there is nowhere where anybody is given the power to suspend.
Yes.
It is it is only to remove. So if they have removed, he has been removed. And so the question now comes to mind as why is the presidency, since it's a single presidency, this is the major problem. When Kashim-Shettima performs something wrong, it is not a single presidency.
Yeah, they will isolate
his office.
The presidency, and then of course focus on it.
But when it is Tinubu's office that are done wrong, they say it's single presidency. Both the office of the vice president, they have one mandate. That is when they will know that there is one mandate. So the question as it arises now is that Shettima has shot himself in the foot, not by making a consensual statement or a direct statement against his boss, but that a sleeping dog that was supposed to be left sleeping is now woken up.
And that's why I'm asking you, Omar Sani, because I've listened to you. I just took some time to really listen to you and to ask you that, having played politics for a very long period of time, do you, in your own honesty, think that that statement was based on the political naivety that the vice president is trying to make Nigerians believe, and it's not a shot at his principal or those surrounding his principal concerning reports that there are plans to actually drop Vice President Kashim-Shettima? Knowing what the former national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, had done at the APC North-East Zonal meeting
in Gombe.
Gombe.
Yes.
Don't you think that it could be a subtle way of sending a message, and that's how journalists and others are seeing it, back to the villa, that look, you can't just push me away?
No, I don't think that was his intention, because there are other contending issues that he could have used. within the political space. But this was used primarily to link a relationship. And a relationship...
Could he not have decided not to use such an example, considering how slippery this is? I mean, this is like a banana peel. You already know that there's a banana peel awaiting you in one form or the other, and you just go ahead to cite such an example. I mean, you know that the president himself, President Bola Tinubu, is a political strategist. Are you telling me that he wouldn't read a second meaning to that statement?
Well, if his spokesman is now even defending the statement, it means that the president has not taken the statement to heart. But that is not the point. The point is that the vice president has no other way of expressing how his path crossed with Adoke other than telling the truth.
Must he have made that example? Why not keep it for some other days? I mean,
because then
that was a power-packed political gathering.
Yes, let me tell you. One, people will now begin to wonder what is his relationship with Adoke. Why did he come into as part of the launching of that book? These are pertinent questions that are being asked,
which could have made the vice president to have been wanting to dispel those kind of thinking.
Exactly. So
only for him to get further into a bigger trouble.
He got into a further trouble by making a statement that is nationally being rejected. It's a statement that a lot of people have spoken, a lot of eggheads in the society, everybody has spoken against the state of emergency in Rivers, citing the Jonathan example. Now, for him to now come and refuse to let sleeping dogs to lie by bringing the matter up, it further aggravated the matter and put the thing in a context where people can now begin to read minutes. That's why you see that the perspective in which a particular newspaper will carry it will be different from a perspective that another newspaper will carry it. So it is now being circulated as one of the weaknesses of the government, and then trying to further create a gap between the president and the vice president, and to show also to the world that something is hidden. Their relationship is not cordial, even though none of them has come out to say our relationship is not cordial. I'll give you, both of them have a history of hiding their crisis. And so it gives the public such type of thinking. Now, in Lagos State, when Fashola was governor, there was a problem between Tinubu and Fashola, but nobody said it. Until one time, the Oba of Lagos, Oba Rilwan Akiolu, came out to say, Kai, let me say this. There is a problem between Fashola and Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, also, there was problem between Tinubu-Shettima and Alimodu Sharif. Yes, yes, but
governor who's known as SAS or Gas or
exactly or
whatever you want.
There was, but they kept managing it. They didn't make it public until at a point in time when it was exposed that yes, they had problems. So they have a history of hiding behind their problems and refusing to talk. So people are now seeing that the roles and responsibilities that the vice president ought to be playing is no longer playing it. If you take a look at my boss, when he was there,
that's Namadi Sambo.
We visited, on behalf of the president, we visited more than 53 countries around the world. Now, that is to show you the extent of the cordial relationship. When the president allows you to go and represent him in so many other places, it gives a sense of camaraderie, a sense of working relationship. Sometimes, I will give you one example. There was an issue. The president had to travel, and we were performing the Lesser Hajj, the Umrah. We were performing the Lesser Hajj, and it is a standing rule within the villa that both the president and the vice president cannot be absent in the country at the same time.
Well, not under the Tinubu's administration. We see that happening over and over.
Yeah. So so when we were almost about to round up. And then the president called and said, we should return. We had to quickly, do some abracadabra and finish everything quickly and came back before he traveled. Now that is to show you the extent of the working relationship. Otherwise, the president can decide to go.
Yeah, and then, very full confidence. Now, but talking about Kashim-Shettima's standing, you and I will, know that in the north, for example, a lot of people seem to have been expressing views that Kashim-Shettima is not so much carrying himself so much like vice president, like we've seen with Atiku Abubakar, we saw with, your boss, and then, of course, even Oshibanjo, that, there was that trust to the extent that Buhari could hand over the nation to an Oshibanjo and go away. But that hasn't happened under this administration. Do you think that there exists a cordial relationship between both?
You see, it's a normal thing for presidents not to like to hand over to the vice president, because most presidents are afraid that as at the time the vice president is acting as acting president, decisions taken cannot be reversed. And so they
just like Oshibanjo did by sacking the DSS
exactly.
DG Lawan.
Yeah, because he was acting president, and so he acted as a president by removing him.
And
so
Nigerians were hailing him.
Exactly.
And that got him into trouble.
Exactly. So it is difficult for most presidents to like to want to hand over. But nevertheless, the issue between Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Kashim-Shettima, I think it is not because there is a subsisting problem, not when they came in, but immediately they came in. Now, what we are hearing from the grapevine, which I would like to share, is that he was accused of bringing marabouts into the villa.
Yeah, that has always been circulated. We journalists keep hearing that.
Yes, that he is praying for Tinubu to die so that he will take over.
But these are allegations.
These are allegations.
At some point, we also heard that, it was to stop the the end bad governance protests. That happened. That was why that happened.
All permutations you will hear. These are permutations. But when that relationship is beginning to show that there are issues, then you begin to suspect the relationship. For instance, I'll give you. There was a meeting when Tinubu was in France that was supposed to, I think, to inaugurate an 8-man committee for population census or something like that, and it was the chief of staff that inaugurated them. That is a red flag, showing there is a problem.
When the vice president
is in the country, and he's around, and he's not the one that inaugurated that committee. That's a red flag, because that is, once the president is not around, it is the vice president that should act on his behalf in the meantime. So if a junior officer, junior to the vice president, who is
an unelected
person,
actually in the
presidency, is now allowed to do that responsibility, it shows that there is a problem.
Yeah, and then there was also the issue of Kashim-Shettima. One of the sins being juggled around by some presidency insiders, that for him to have allowed the 36 state governors to actually say that the tax reform bills, those bills that were brought before, that they should actually be stepped down, that it means he was in control of the National Economic Council, which is the one that chairs, and that, having taken that decision, that President Tinubu wasn't happy about that. And so what President Tinubu said is that Nigerians should be allowed to contribute to it, not that you should step down those bills. Could President Tinubu have felt really let down by some of those things?
I don't think so, because the National Economic Council itself is an advisory body to the president.
Yes.
So whatever they decide is at the whims and caprices of the president.
But Tinubu would have hoped that Kashim-Shettima, will pull through and ensure that, the presidency's view, from President Tinubu's eyeball view of the situation flows through, and not that it looks like the governors were holding him to ransom. No, could he have performed better?
No, you see, this type of controversies have happened severally.
Okay.
I can assure you, there was, during the issue of, the vice president couldn't hold them Amechi and Akpabio and the rest when they were saying that the excess crude account should be scrapped. Because when the governors come, they come forcefully. They will have done their meeting outside and they come forcefully because they wanted the monies to be given to them. And they said they don't need any excess school account. They also have places where monies where they, it was from those excess school accounts that certain developments came up, like the sovereign wealth fund. It was funded from the $1 billion that was started. From that was from that excess school, but they were very because it was unconstitutional. The only account recognized by the law is the consolidated revenue account, which is captured in section 162 of the Nigerian Constitution. So any other account that is being held is unconstitutional and null and void. So because of that, they were using the illegality of that account to say, share our money to all of us. We don't want you to be our custodian.
And of course, you know how powerful those governors can be.
Yeah, so
because some of these people were former governors themselves.
So when what they did to Shettima was to ambush him. The governors had already held their own meeting and said they don't want. If you remember, before the National Economic Council meeting, there was a meeting of the northern governors in Kaduna, where almost all of them rejected the tax bill. Yes. So it was a strategic plan. Now, those from the south, you can see that there was no voice, no dissenting voice. I was expecting, for instance, Sanwo-Olu to say, no, I'm not part of this decision. But there was no dissenting voice, which is to tell you.
Those are intrigues indeed.
Yeah, this is to tell you that they planned it and he was only ambushed and there was nothing he could do.
All right, as we try to round off this conversation, could Kashim Shettima be in trouble politically ahead of 2027? Because I hear some people actually calling him an academic vice president. I mean, saying that it looks like if you follow Tinubu's political culture,
yes,
behavior in government, he, has a tendency to always discard, his deputy governors and all of that. And that's the fate that's awaiting Kashim Shettima.
Yeah.
What kind of political advice will you give to the vice president who looks embattled at the moment?
Yes, I can see that the northeast where he comes from are also battle ready to fight this government. Not long ago, Senator Anjuma Goji, came out to say that of all the allocations that were made for infrastructure, look at the amount that they are given to the northeast. That is a statement showing this affection. Again, the governor of Borno State, through his actions, has demonstrated that if there is no Shettima, he will not support. So I think, and you know, their governors forum, the Northeast Governors Forum, is a very strong force there. They work in harmony. So the 2027 permutation must take cognizance of the Northeast. And Northeast has always been a good provider of votes to the APC. Mostly the Borno and Yobe, even though the last election, PDP won Yobe.
And that's what is also being used to count against Kashim Shettima, that he's not as strong politically, like Ashwaju had thought. And of course, going into elections is about winning votes. And so if that didn't happen last time, why shouldn't President Tinubu...
Why should President Tinubu make such calculations? Why didn't he win Lagos? Why didn't Peter Obi win Lagos? That is his strong point. And that's where you say Tinubu is the Lord of the Mano in Lagos. Yet he lost Lagos. And it was on his own election. It means that election can... is somehow you can't really predict.
So if the talks are ongoing that Kwankwaso should be brought in to bring the 1 million+ votes in Kano, don't you think that President Tinubu will be thinking of embracing him rather than the Kashim Shettima that he may not be so sure of could deliver, the Borno Yobe votes so much?
Well, you see, the northern sentiment at the moment will not favor Kwankwaso.
Interesting.
Yes, it will not favor Kwankwaso.
How do you mean by that?
Yes, if you have observed Kwankwaso's style of politics, he has always been very careful where he knows the sentiments of the people are before he takes them there. If you look at in 2013, and 2003, 2007, and 2011, when Buhari was contesting, and he knew that the people of Kano wanted Buhari, he didn't interfere.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't interfere, knowing that if he does, his political future will be very bleak. Similarly, now, the last election, he was the one who was contesting. That's why he got that 1.4 million votes.
Yes.
Now, when it is an open competition, there is possibility of choice. And the people of Kano may likely not choose what Konkoso brings. You know, they have, an independent mind. In the north, there are two states that if you are calculating their political sophistication, is Kano and Bauchi. Because it is only in Bauchi that you will see that in this senatorial district is PRP. In this one,
I remember in 2011 during the CPC and all of that. I mean, it was just the votes were shared among the political parties on different election and dates and all of that.
Exactly. So you see, this one.
All right. I mean, very important permutations, and I just hope the president will be listening. But just before I let you go, very quickly, can Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as president now, rethink his political strategy ahead without the input of Shettima?
No, I think he needs Shettima. You see, politics is not about discarding people. When you discard people, they become agitated and aggrieved.
Yeah, because some people are saying that, I mean, once Shettima just utters anything, they're subtly or, fully in support of maybe like ADC or anything, I mean, the APC could be in trouble.
Exactly.
Losing some votes that it already had.
And, people like Ganduje, who has just been sidelined and although been brought back from retirement, maybe nursing some grudges too. And so there are a lot of, like I always say, that there will be alignments and realignments when the time comes.
All right.
You will see people, like Bob Marley would say, movement of the people.
Yeah.
People will be moving from here to here, because some people who are hoping on APC to gain something or to be able to be allowed to contest for something and they cannot get it, they are likely to shift.
All right, Umar, thank you so much for your immense wealth of knowledge. Umar Sani is a former senior special assistant to former Vice President Namadi Sambo. And of course, he has a proper understanding of that office. I mean, because it could be very slippery. You don't know what to do. You get so much into trouble. And of course, it looks like Shettima may have in one way or the other been misinterpreted based on what Umar Sani has said, that it may not have been his intention. But well, the Nigerian polity continues to be alive to these speculations here and there. But we must thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.